What's up, the internet? It's Kyle.
It's Peapod.
This is the Kypod Show, Season 2, Episode 1. It's been like a year.
It's been like from July, apparently.
Yeah, something like that.
Something
I
like
have to
that.
actually do the math on how long it's been,
It hasn't been a year.
but it's been a long time.
Yes. Good to be back.
Yes. If you haven't joined us before for the Kypod Show,
Yes.
you don't know what you're missing.
Or do you?
Maybe.
Yes. We are two loud, bald nerds
We are two loud, bald nerds.
talking about hashtag two bald crew
Loud, bald things.
and loud, bald things about comic and comic-related business. No, basically the premise of the show is we look at the world of the comic book world on the side of fandom, which is me,
Yes.
and the side of professionalism and working in the business. Professionalism. I put that in loose terms, air quotes if you're listening in, from two sides. So yes.
I'm the business, he's the fun, and in the end, it winds up being something that's vaguely listenable.
Vaguely.
Yes.
I mean, we're somewhat professionals.
Yeah, somewhat professionals, I guess. Well, did you see my post? So I was Peapod.
Yes.
Why don't we start with what have you done since the last time we did the Kypod Show?
I worked a lot, and now I have a morning show in Toledo, Ohio, on the Risen Again 100.7 The Zone, which is a lot of fun. So I get to do mornings again, but I also get my butt up at 3-something in the morning to be live at 6-something in the morning. So, but other than that, I've also read some comics. I stopped reading some comics for a bit because, adulting. And now I am here in the lovely Nexus 419 in downtown Rossford, Ohio. And, talking with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you're yay Peapod in the morning. Amanda says yay Peapod in the morning.
Yay, Peapod in the morning.
It's true. I was on the show this week.
Yes, you were
which
on.
was super fun.
It was this past Monday.
Yes.
And you will probably be a regular co-host, semi-regular co-host, because I liked having a revolving door of guests in my morning show that have like familiar voices and faces. So
it's true. You did that before. You had a lot of our friends on, but it's real early in the morning. I just
It is early in the
want to
morning.
throw that out there.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the reason I mention it
yes,
is I put sometimes I talk for fun, and sometimes I talk professionally.
professionalism.
So that's what we try and do, but we try and have a lot of fun here. So what we thought we'd do for our first episode back after our long hiatus is kind of recap last year in nerddom.
Which is a lot of nerdum stuff.
Right. So, I guess, where do we start? We probably should have discussed that.
This is not scripted.
Show prep.
Show prep, whatever. Nonsense.
Right.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the end of 10 years, the first decade of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we eventually know that, because Marvel's part of the Disney machine, you're going to get Marvel characters out the wazoo in movie, television, and other forms, including the comics. So, obviously, it wrapped up in a bow of the first decade in the 2-part Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have the 2-part Infinity War. I almost just called it something different. That would have been really ugly if I'd have done that.
Infinity Gauntlet, or whatever it's actually called in the comics.
Yeah, no, I almost just made a really bad joke is what I almost just did. But anyhow, you had that. You had the end of the 10 years of the 10 years of terror that were the first wave of the Marvel films cinematic experience. I don't know.
Faction regime, whatever.
I keep coming down on the middle of that one.
Of liking or
yes.
Okay, well, yeah, same. I mean, because we're so involved. Again, you're so involved with the comic book aspect, and it's cool. You see these characters live and in person, and they're doing comic book things that you've dreamed of as a kid. Now in the big screen, on the moving pictures,
right?
But at the same time,
talkies.
in the talkies, in the talking pictures,
Yes.
I don't know what accent that is.
I have no idea either, but it's
If it's not a Russian accent, I'm just terrible at it.
We could do the whole thing in Russian accent.
You know, in American.
No,
stop.
we gotta stop.
I'll stop.
We gotta stop.
Okay. The point is, we're so involved in these characters and we know the backstory and everything, but taking in a comic book and putting it directly, frame by frame, and panel to panel the big screen, certain things don't,
Sure.
go over well on the big screen.
And I'm not going to argue that point too heavily. I've done that. I've done that more than my fair share of times.
We've done that so many times. Yeah.
But I look back on the first 10 years and I just ask myself, was it good? And I think there were so many. The high points were so high,
and the low points were low,
that it made the low points seem high.
Okay.
Iron Man 1. Such a triumph.
Huge, yeah.
So big. And then you have Civil War. Or you have Captain America First Avenger. Or you have
You didn't like the first Captain America?
I thought it was bad compared to the other two.
That's fair.
Compared to Winter Soldier, it was awful.
Oh, well, yeah, Winter Soldier. Yeah, well, Winter Soldier is one of the best.
Right.
In the cinematic universe.
That's what I'm saying. So then you get Winter Soldier, and you're looking back at Captain Marvel or Captain America going, eh.
Well,
and then you even go past that. You get Agent Carter, the television series.
I loved Agent Carter.
Which was so good. But they're not giving it, they're giving it short shrift, because it's not what they expected. And you have, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I thought was a hot steaming pile of garbage.
Yeah.
But when you look at it overall, it was solid. But then you have low points like Thor Ragnarok. Or not Thor Ragnarok, Thor Dark World.
No, all the Thor films are probably
really all
the
the
weakest.
Thor films, yes.
Let's be fair. All the Thor films were kind of weak.
I'm going to say I liked Thor 1.
I did like Thor 1.
Only because when I was working at the radio station, we did the premiere.
Oh.
At the Rave XR out at Fallen Timbers.
Oh, the XLR or whatever.
And it was so big and so beautiful on that screen. I'm like, okay, I can get behind this.
I saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy in that that theater, and it was gorgeous.
Right. So, I'll be honest. I saw get ready to judge me. I saw Ghost Rider 2 in that theater and didn't walk out.
What? Who are you and what have you done with Kyle?
Confession time.
Okay.
I was pretty drunk.
Okay. All right.
It was a radio station event. I was pretty.
Oh.
Yeah, we had gone to El Vaquero before.
Oh.
Yeah.
We can't do that now, at least in my regime. So.
Well, we weren't supposed to.
Well,
we were going to see Ghost Rider 2. We needed prep.
So they're gonna be able all these nerds drink.
It's true. So, that was a big one in the last year. I think we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But let's talk about some of the actual comic stuff that happened last year.
Well, obviously, one of the biggest things was the wrap up of Scott Snyder in a bow, and it just ended, literally I think weeks ago.
Yes.
The run of Batman.
The Batman,
or the Scott Snyder universe Batman, with or without Greg Capullo, and then you wrap that all in a bow.
Right.
Which was, here's the thing about Scott Snyder, I like his writing. He's a good writer.
Yeah.
I feel like though there's so much build up, and like how are they going to do this, and then all of a sudden like the payoff is not as big as I think it should have been.
That's fair.
I feel like it could be a lot like Batman Metal, as obnoxious of a miniseries that was, and I think that was kind of the point they went into it. It's like Batman Metal is going to be like obnoxious, and I love the idea of the Dark Knights, and I'm a sucker for multiverse stories and things like that. I love the idea of like those one shots of like how the evil Batman, who was like Batman is Bruce Wayne, but he's Green Lantern. Batman. He's like, it sounds like just like a drunken stampede. All right, we gotta get Batman, but what if he's bad and he's Green Lantern? Whoa. No, but I love the idea of those one-shots because they were terrific. Because I love the idea. But like the whole build-up of like, and taking on, what was the big guy? Barbados? The big evil in that
Yeah.
one? Yeah. You know, like the build up all that, and I think he just won because literally he's Batman. Like, that was pretty much
I'll be honest, though. I've heard worse reasons to buy a book.
That's right. No, it was it was a great series, but like the build up was so huge, and then like I'm behind on his Justice League run.
Right.
That I don't know if they took down Luther and whatever one of the first creators of the multiverse or whatever like that. And another, I need to catch up, but you know, I like Scott Snyder. He's one of the best modern day writers. I would put it up there.
Okay.
I think he does a lot of good work, and I'm looking forward to see whatever his next projects are. If we talk other DC related things, another run of Batman on the same subject as Tom King's Batman run ending.
Yes.
I never got into it.
Well, Tom King's run on Mr. Miracle. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about something we can talk about.
Oh, God.
Tom King's run on Mr. Miracle, a character that had largely been ignored for a number of years. Mr. Miracle. You know, you hadn't had a new Mr. Miracle story in 15 years.
That series got me into the Fourth World.
It's true.
And I need to jump back. I need to find time to go back and read comics because I have the Fourth World omnibus, and I was about a third of the way in, and then I just stopped.
Right. So, but you had his run on Mr. Miracle, which brought this character back and gave it a whole new legs.
Oh my God.
And gave it a whole new life with a younger audience, people who didn't know Mr. Miracle the first time it was around.
And also a really good story about PTSD and mental health and things like that. It was done really well.
Right. It tackled a lot, and that's what I wanted to bring up. It tackled a lot of issues that are coming to the forefront in culture now. Like, you know, you read books from the 80s and the 70s, and there's jokes and there's comments in them that would never fly in today's books.
No.
And comics are taking on this social sort of
commentary.
Well, social normativism for the modern day. And Tom King's book really does that. You know, I can't tell you how often I hear my friends talking about their mental health. I hear my friends talking about their struggles. Hear my veteran friends talking about their struggles with PTSD. These kind of things. And granted, part of that is that I've got a lot of friends who are in that industry.
Right.
Like, that's their game. But at the same time, if you have a superhero who is portraying that I'm not okay, you're not okay, but it's okay that we're not okay thing.
Right.
That saves a lot of stigma for people.
His Hero in Crisis did a lot of that.
Yes.
I love the idea, but I think the story itself kind of somewhat fell flat. But I can understand what he was doing, and I love the premise.
Yeah, I think what had happened was I think it took off in a way that they weren't expecting, and then DC got a little shocked and tried to roll it back.
So they tried to do what the Clone Saga was in the 90s. Hey, this is really good. Let's try to extend it. But instead of extending it, they kind of just reel it back in. Well,
instead of... Amanda's right. Comics have always been a medium of change.
Absolutely.
And we could talk about that in a second. But what I mean is that it's... Heroes in Crisis #1 came out and it hit you so hard right in the teeth.
Oh, yeah.
And by Heroes in Crisis #2, it wasn't as...
teeth-thinning?
Brutal.
Right.
It wasn't as pungent. It wasn't as strong. And then by the end of the series, it had almost nerfed itself in terms of its original intent.
Right.
Its original message. And I think that was DC going, we've got this property on our hands that's great, but it's only going to be marketable to so many of the population if you keep it this heavy.
Yeah, it's too niche.
Well, I like the word heavy.
It's too heavy, too specific. Right. You know, hey, we need to broaden it up a little bit.
Right.
You know, having concentrated ideas is not necessarily a bad idea, but then it's hard to market to a wider audience.
Sure.
That's why we've talked about a lot of things. Like, we're really excited that these comic properties are on for the big screen, but then it's not doing a best of a job because when people come into your shop and go, I saw Black Panther, and our Black Panther episode was a perfect example. I saw Black Panther. I want to read Black Panther. How do I watch? Right. How do I read what I watched?
Right.
And that doesn't happen because it's an amalgam of stories.
Right, you can't. But, I mean, I think the other thing, though, we saw in 2019 specifically was we started to see stories be written in comic form with the intent of them being on television or in movies. If you look at the Shazam story that came out, I know Gary Franks did the art on it.
Right.
I forget who wrote it.
Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns, yeah, Shazam.
Because it keeps on getting pushed back because Jeff Johns is too busy.
Right, but so that Shazam was written with the intent of, hey guys, we're going to build this comic universe here in this comic because this is what's going to be in the movie.
And I don't like that.
I don't mind it. I really don't. I like, Marvel used to do this back Iron Man 1 and 2, where it was, all of a sudden, Tony Stark looks a lot like Robert Downey Jr. and say, inspired by the movie.
Right.
But it'd be a separate story from the original Iron Man.
Oh, so it's like, it was kind of like a comic build-up for the movie.
Yeah.
And it was in its little pocket.
Right, it'd be a 6 or 8 issue mini. Mm-hmm. And it would be, here's Iron Man. Looks like Tony Stark, talks like Tony Stark. Pepper Potts looks like Gwyneth Paltrow. All these characters, all these characters look like the people they're supposed to look like.
Right.
From the movies, but it's not over here jumping into the Iron Man canon.
Right.
That you're used to. So I think them seeing more of that is good because it. And here's why I'm again talking as a business person.
Business person, yeah.
I have a 9-year-old kid walk in and ask me about Venom. I cannot hand him Venom funeral pyre. Not a thing I can do.
I mean, you can.
I mean, I have a conscience. I can't hand him Venom Lethal Protector and think, you know what, 9-year-old, you can handle
Yeah,
this.
you know what, you can do it. Yeah.
But if Marvel were to put out a Venom... I'm taking my hat off.
Hashtag two bald crew.
Two bald crew. But if Venom were to... if Venom were to have a storyline that was based on the Venom film...
Right. Which I never saw, by the way.
And they put that out, I can hand that to a kid because I know that they're marketing it for a mass audience. Right. And they're marketing it for all age groups. It's the same with Deadpool.
It's a good... Well...
Deadpool, people walk in asking for Deadpool. I'm like, no.
No.
I'm not going to let you buy I'm not going to let a 9-year-old buy Danny Wade's Deadpool.
No. God, no.
I'm not going to let him buy Brian Posehn's Deadpool. I'm just not.
No.
So if they make a Deadpool that can be... I don't even want to say family friendly because it's Deadpool.
Because it's Deadpool. Because it's not
make a
supposed to.
Deadpool that's more of the movie for more of that crowd. I think that would be successful.
Even though, it's technically the movies were rated R, so technically they still shouldn't be for kids.
Right. But kids watch them.
I mean, hey, I'm not their parents.
Right. Business wise, 2019 it was a big year business wise for a lot of people. But it was also a big year of change in the comic industry. You started to see the transition from the traditional direct market into more of a broad spectrum direct market, I suppose. It used to be that kids would come in here and you'd have some boys who bought manga and some girls who bought comics. But it was pretty straight up and down who you'd expect.
Yeah.
And 2019 was the year of, I would not expect you to be reading that.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was, I had female customers coming in looking for straight ahead gothic horror. I had guys coming in reading things like Dodge City and, boom books that were geared a little more towards all ages and females. This year, I think the market sort of finally came to that, what everybody's claimed comics was for years, which is comics are for everyone.
Right.
I think this year we started to see it more just based on the number of people walking through the door. The dynamics are changing dramatically.
It's also because it's just the social norms and everything that is changing along with that. Mm-hmm. And as mentioned before, comics has always been a medium of change. When social norms are changing, comics start to change as well. It's one of those arts imitates life, life imitates arts kind of things. And I think also, we could talk about such as the rise of the independents, and the creator-owned stuff, bigger and bigger than ever.
Right. That definitely is a thing. But the other thing we saw, and this is, we kind of kicked the year off on this note. St. Mark's, which is a legendary comic store in New York, closed.
Yeah.
We at one point were losing, I don't want to say 2 comic stores a week,
but it's too much.
But it was some astronomical number like that. In 6 months, something like 65 stores closed. And don't quote me on those numbers. I'm not the people at Comics Pro who track that kind of stuff. But it's what we were seeing is that stores couldn't stand alone.
Right.
On just new book sales.
No.
The stores that focused on selling the new Batman every week, the new Spider-Man every week, and your back issues as you weren't surviving.
No, so they had to do more.
Well, stores had to diversify and do things like carry trades, carry manga.
Which you can get here in the Nexus 419, downtown Rossford. Ow. What is this?
I just threw lip gloss at you.
Victoria's Secret's flavored gloss.
Yes, Amanda left it here, so now I threw it at you. Yes, now I threw it at you. Because that was just inappropriate. You should put it on, and then she's got to take it home.
I won't put my lips on it.
Anyhow. Oh, that's your color. That's your color. Anyhow.
My wife's going to be so confused.
Right?
She's like, why is your lips shiny?
Right.
Well, I have video proof why.
Right. It's true. She's not gotta be weirded out.
Sorry, Mrs. Peapod.
Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Pod. Anyhow, what was I talking about? Oh, stores had to diversify. You had to start carrying games.
I need a paper towel. Keep talking.
Bathroom.
Where's the bathroom?
Through the toy room.
Through the toy room.
If you hit the far wall, you've gone too far.
Okay.
Anyhow. She says it tastes yummy. Amanda did leave it here. Anyhow. You had to diversify. Comic stores had to start carrying other things. They had to focus on the things they could do outside of the norms that could generate revenue. So you started to see comics and games, comics and manga,
comics and more.
Shout out to Chris Brown and Comics and More. What's up, Mario? Anyhow.
We're live on Facebook if you're listening to the replay of this, by the way.
Right. Yes, we're live on Facebook. I was going to put that in the intro.
Oh, okay.
I like how they could see you looking at yourself in your camera.
I know, right?
While looking in the camera.
So meta.
Pretty dope.
It's so meta.
Anyhow, but like we, as our store, we started focusing less and less on the other stuff and more on the comics, but diversifying our comic selection and diversifying how we sold them to you.
And also diversifying your bonds, because Wu-Tang's for the children. No, and yeah, I think you need to, because comics is not a niche market as much as it was.
Right.
It is now, and that is the good thing about all of these properties becoming more in the pop culture and everything. I mean, like Disney Plus was a big thing that launched, obviously in the fall, early winter, and that obviously
it was like late winter. But
late winter. The point is, like, it was
in the bleak midwinter. Disney
Plus came out like a hurricane.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like a wrecking ball, but like it's same reference. The point is,
now I have Scorpion stuck in my head as opposed to Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Choose your own reference. The point is, Disney Plus came out and that had the slew of Marvel things, including some of the great things for nostalgia. I'm not a big nostalgia guy kick, but the first thing I did watch through was the 90s Spider-Man, and that's what I based personally on every Spider. Like, I'm not a big fan of Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Right.
I am in the minority in that, and that is fine. I will die on that hill. I loved the 90s Spider-Man. I thought how Hal was portrayed and the struggles that he had to deal with, college, relationships, things like that. And he felt like it was an adult, even though he's in college. To think about, like, what age you are in high school, college, and your maturity level, and watching it now, being past that, it's crazy to me how the 90s Spider-Man was portrayed as more of an adult, even though he was in college. Towards the end of the series, like, he, proposed to Mary Jane. Slight spoiler alert if you've never seen the show. But, like, in the high school, in the MCU version, he's in high school, and he's just literally a snot-nosed kid who's, hasn't gone through puberty yet. He hasn't had to talk.
Right.
Like, and that was so confusing to me and so jarring to me because I was so used to that basis of the 90s Spider-Man. But the 90s X-Men, we have Chippendales, you have all the cartoons, he's in Chippendales, it's great. Darkwing Duck, you have all those, like, nostalgia moments. And then the build-up for the next, the new Marvel comic-related nerdum, and also, like, the Mandalorian.
Right.
One of the best things Star Wars has put out.
Still haven't watched a second of it.
Oh my God. Like, what are you doing with yourself? I mean, other than running a business and trying to keep yourself in,
right.
living.
Running a business and, 2 podcasts and, like, a number of things.
Yeah, like, a lot of things are going on.
Right. Also, I'm trying to watch The West Wing again. And, there's other stuff.
There's other things. But, like, The Mandalorian, in my opinion, has been, like, one of the best things that Star Wars has put out in years.
Well, Baby Yoda, I mean, I've not seen a second of it, but I can get behind Baby Yoda.
Oh, yeah, well, Baby Yoda. I can't wait when, like, the name is dropped and it's, like, something bad, like Barry or whatever, or Paul. This is Baby Yoda's Paul.
You know what his name is.
What?
Jar Jar.
It's the me. It's the me the whole time. Like the whole Vince McMahon.
No, it's like he's
Austin.
named after this legendary figure, Jar Jar.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, rewatching because all the Star Wars films, at least the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, and then a couple of the newer trilogy, watching the prequel trilogy and watching the movies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of 4, 5, 6 jumping back 1, 2, 3 or whatever the internet version was, where you don't need to you can watch 20 minutes of episode 1, like somebody on YouTube. The machete cut. Where they cut up episode 1 into like a 20-minute 20-minute movie,
right?
And then you jump in on you watch 4 or 5, you go back and watch the 20-minute of episode 1, 2, 3, and then you jump into Return of the Jedi. I think that was the machete cut.
I don't remember.
I think
that's my cousin texted me the other day and goes, "Hey, so if I want to watch all of Star Wars, how would I start?"
I mean, honestly,
and I go, "Bro, you really want to open up that can of worms?" And I told him watch them in release order.
Right.
Then watch them in numerical order. Then watch the machete cut.
Right.
And then when you're thoroughly confused, come back and I'll explain to you why.
Right. But watching them in numerical order was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where I think my wife and I, because it's been like forever since my wife's watched Star Wars. It's been forever since I've watched Star Wars. So we watched them in numerical order. And a lot of the things in the prequel trilogy was interesting that they build up in a future tense, even though the original trilogy was first. Then the prequel trilogy happened. It was interesting how some of the things overarched.
Right.
But, the original trilogy had, obviously it's terrible moments.
Mario's pointing out that they're developing an old Republic.
So that's the
show TV.
So movie? that's the prequel of the prequels. That's the original.
Yes.
I'd be down for that, to be honest. I was trying to watch Clone Wars because everything that happened in The Mandalorian, like, it also reflected in some of the things that happened in Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars. And Clone Wars is really hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's really, like, I don't even want to watch it. Like, I should just, like, jump into just Rebels, to be honest.
Amanda says she hopes they aren't doing a Darth Vader show, and I hate to break it to her, but they are doing a Darth Vader show. It's an hour-long variety show with musical numbers and comedy bits.
I'd watch that.
I would too.
I would watch that. No, I mean, and
it's
that's
basically the Carol Burnett show with a mask.
Yo, sign me up.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
I'd watch it. But that also helps with Disney having the Star Wars universe because now their comics are canon, and Charles Soule writing a lot of those Star Wars books, which I also really enjoy Charles Soule's work.
Chuck is great.
Yes. it's cool that a lot of things are in the mainstream now. It is. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the idea. Like, I was really into a lot of the DC CW verse. It has its moments.
I watched it all. And that was something I did this year. I mean, did in 2019. Is I watched it all after telling one of my staff that they needed to watch The Flash so they could understand The Flash.
I think The Flash is the strongest DC show.
It's true.
But Steve Amell is a dreamboat.
He's coming to C2E2 in 2020.
What?
Huh?
I want to go. It's dreamy.
I'm not even going. But no,
Anyway.
I agree with you. I think the DC verse, the Arrowverse stuff was strong. I think more than that, for me at least, I think what it was a quasi-accurate representation of those characters.
It did a very good job. And also made you a good job, like, caring about secondary characters that you wouldn't blink at.
Well, this is where I was going, is I think the way they, movie supposedly Reeves is attached to supposedly. Is that Christopher Reeves?
Because he's dead.
Right.
Spoiler. I'm guessing Matt Reeves, the guy who's going to be directing the Batman.
No, he's talking about Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves is going to be doing the Star Wars?
No, Keanu Reeves, the cat from that movie Keanu with Key and Peele.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, so it's, but I think those shows were an accurate representation. That was a deep cut.
That was a deep cut. I love Key and Peele.
Right. Those
Liam
shows...
Neeson's, sorry, go on.
Those shows give a more accurate representation to those characters, even if they weren't telling the stories the way they're supposed to be told. In my opinion, they're at least out there being like, "This is how the Flash is," And
I'll take that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a character that. Okay, I will take a character that's more that is a better representation of the comic book version to a large medium. If you change, but I'm cool with you giving, I can't think of the words right now.
Creative license?
Creative freedom on the overarching story. As long as the character itself is still true to the book and the main things that make that character tick. Like, all of a sudden, if you do, like, a Spider-Man cartoon and Uncle Ben never died, and Uncle Ben is still there, it wouldn't be a Spider-Man book.
Right.
It wouldn't be a Spider-Man cartoon.
Right.
You
need Uncle Ben to die the same way you need
Batman's parents to die.
Parents to get killed.
You need the Flash to get his powers by the core of the character and what they are about and their positives and negatives and everything needs to still happen. Like, don't get me wrong, Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie, obviously it's not the best representation, at least the overarching story of it. But how he portrayed a lot of the characters did a great job.
So, let's talk about this, because this is something that I've learned about in the last year.
Okay.
When CBS or whoever produced it focus tested Mary Tyler Moore,
yes,
it came back that people hated it.
Right.
Because they didn't know how to take it. It's why people hated New Coke or Clear Pepsi. They don't know how to take it.
This is different. I don't like change.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a level of that with comic books, is that, with these films and these books, is that when they change, it's the guys like us, or at least like me, I don't know about yourself, but the guys like me who are so tied to these, for lack of a better analogy, flavors and tastes.
Your eyes start twitching, you start irking, you start twitching a little bit, because the things that make something like, this is not exactly panel for panel, or this is not what I'm used to.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I hated was when they changed the spider suit.
Which time?
Because it was always a red top and blue bottoms.
Okay.
When it's the weird Alex Ross V-neck red with the all blue suit.
Okay.
I'm like, I hate that. Now, I like the story. Dan Slott wrote a great story when that started, at the beginning of that run that he did there.
I liked Dan Slott's run, and then halfway through, I really soured upon him.
Well, this was the last quarter.
Okay, so that's when I was soured upon it.
Yeah. This was the last quarter. I loved the story, but I hated the art. And so it's like, how do you deal with that? And I think one of the things the industry needs to look at really hard in 2020, because we talked about this, we were talking about Valiant Comics.
Yes.
And they don't leave people in place long enough. Valiant went through some other stuff. They got bought.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't that creative teams were leaving.
And it was
that production people were leaving and bosses were leaving.
And I loved Valiant. And it was all about Valiant when the boom of Valiant came back. I was really into it. I loved Exo Manowar. I loved
Turok the Dinosaur Hunter.
Well, no, I mean I never read that 96. I wouldn't mind reading that, to be honest. But like when the new boom of Valiant came back,
yes,
and all those books, I was really all about it. And then the company got bought, and then more and more people got leaving, and then I noticed it in the book. The art was crap, the writing was crap, things were getting soured, and it turned me away. And right. I have not picked up a Valiant book since.
Right.
It's unfortunate because I love the ideas, I love the stories, I love the characters. I can't keep on trying to support something that just everything about it just like this is subpar. So
something that we dealt with and we're dealing with now here in 2020 is sort of the end of continuity. So, well, no, continuity. It's not that. It's that Dan Slott wrote Spider-Man for 10 years before Nick Spencer took over. Tom King wrote Batman for 3 years.
And now he's gone.
Now he's gone. You have Scott Snyder, who's been on for 7 or 8 years writing Batman.
And now he's gone.
It's these creative teams are moving on. And I think it's really important for the industry and for comics as a whole to whoever takes on the reins of these characters stay for a while. One of the biggest disappointments for me of all time was when Gail Simone was writing Batgirl. And it was phenomenal. And DC's like, you're doing really good. Let's move you to this other book and take you off Batgirl. Well, is it possible that she was doing really good because she loved Batgirl and wanted to write Batgirl? Yeah. I think that's how that works. You know, I think it's important to, in the new year, focus on, storytelling by giving people enough leash to go out and do something. It's Jeff Johns, when he was writing Green Lantern. It was some of the best Green Lantern writing that had been done since, Mike Zeck.
His Green Lantern run was very enjoyable.
Right.
Blackest Night was crazy awesome.
Right. That's exactly it. So let this guy write this story for a long time, and he could tell these big, broad stories that are what get you your series and your films.
Right.
It's a friend of mine who's a retailer made a comment the other day that what's happened is that Disney bought Marvel and Warner Brothers bought DC, and instead of using them for R&D, instead of using them to develop stories and letting them develop stories that you can then take and turn into movies, they've changed them into production studios.
Yes, because now it's starting to become that Marvel movies and every movie that's come out is very cookie cutter. You can tell what's a Marvel film. You can kind of already predict what the character or what the movie is. Mm-hmm. And DC, don't get me wrong, I mean, DC has had its woes, and it's notoriously known for its woes, Photoshop mouth. It's and the constant change in Batman.
Before we move on from Photoshop mouth, let's not forget the shawarma scene at the end of Avengers.
Oh yeah, where Chris Evans had his hand
beard,
over his mouth,
and he had to go like this the whole time.
He had to go like this the whole time. Actually, I watched Justice League, and as much as everybody poo-pooed it, and it deserved to be poo-pooed, I thought the representation of those characters was done very well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement. But I also don't necessarily agree with the way DC has represented characters.
I agree.
I think they've misrepresented Harley Quinn. I think they've misrepresented the Joker twice now.
Yeah.
I think they've misrepresented a lot of characters from the Teen Titans.
I think Harley Quinn is now like their version of Deadpool, which is fine.
If you have Margot Robbie, you might as well use her.
I you know what? I'm super excited for the new film. I thought Margot Robbie was one of the high points of Suicide Squad. I thought Ben Affleck was a great Batman. I'm interested.
Wrong.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Ben Affleck was a passable Batman.
I thought he was a great. I'm done with this crap.
He was a very good Bruce Wayne.
Yes. I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Absolutely. I'm so excited for all of that, for Wonder Woman 84. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a phenomenal film.
By the way, did you know that the guy who plays Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 84
is the Mandalorian?
Is the Mandalorian?
Yes. Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
Yes. Which is super weird.
Can't be his real name, by the way.
Probably not. It's probably a stage name.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a digital copy of Joker that I can cash in because I just got it at work. And, I'm very hesitant to watch it. I know everybody is really for, like, the drama and the idea of, like, Joker can be is any of us at any given moment. And I don't like that idea. I really don't. The whole point of Joker is that he's a psychopath. It's not a guy that is down on his luck that's had one too many bad days. I don't like that idea.
I still subscribe to the Three Jokers theory.
Which is going to be a book.
Which is, I think this is one of them.
This is odd Joker. Yeah, there's the complete and utter psychopath Joker. There is the anarchist Joker, and then there's the hard times on his luck killing joke Joker.
Right.
Pretty much. Like, guy was on beaten down one too many times that he's just snapped. That's the Three Joker theory.
Right.
Which is fine, which is great. And I'm very interested whenever that book comes out, which is Jeff Johns and what's his face?
Is it Frank Tinian?
No. It's I don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head. He's a great artist.
I'll be driving home and it'll come.
I like his art. I don't know what it is. I could Google it, but I don't want to right now. I like the idea of, like, there are three Jokers and there's three different and I mean that builds a character and we talked about how characters should have a long enough leash that people can have their own style on the character without uprooting and upshifting everything that makes that character. Like, I hated the idea of Lee Weeks. Len Weeks. Wex. No. I don't know. I'm mispronouncing his name.
No, it's which story are you talking about?
Swamp Thing.
Okay, that was Lee Weeks.
Okay. I hated the idea that he went on record saying he hated the idea what Charles Soule's run did on Swamp Thing, which I absolutely love before he got a Marvel exclusive contract, that there are these different worlds of the green, the red, the metal, like, the idea of these representations of, like, these people represent the elements of the world. He hated that idea. And he openly trashed it. And I thought that was a great idea that still kept the idea of Swamp Thing. That he was the protector of the land. Well, of course, if there's a protector of the land, there should be, obviously, in some sort of way, there's a protector of everything else that creates the world.
Sure. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
I mean,
just, like, don't poo-poo something different that still built a universe around that character.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can reference it, but don't change everything that made that character that character.
Yeah.
And I think in 2020, I think that's what, and I think that's the biggest thing why a lot more people are going to create their own and create their own characters and create their own comics because they can create the narrative. We talked about, hey, Scott Snyder's done on Batman. He's now on Justice League. Now Tom King's on Batman, and people hated or really liked Batman on Tom King's run. Now he's gone. Now it's who's on Batman now?
I have no idea.
I don't know any idea.
I stopped reading.
Exactly.
Right. So let's talk about this then, because you brought up an interesting point. Let's talk about 2020. What are the things we should look for in 2020? What are the things that you're looking forward to, that you know about? What are the things that you'd like to see? What do you think 2020 will bring to the nerddom?
With everything that's happened in Star Wars and how, like, the new era of Star Wars is either you really like it or you really don't like it, which is interesting to me. I think also the next generation or the next set of years, next storylines, how do you go from Thanos is one of the big Marvel characters of the MCU, dead now. Who do you have bigger to take on? And the ideas of bringing in now the Fantastic Four, possibly the ideas of bringing the X-Men, filling in some of the gaps of like Black Widow or the relationship of Wanda and Vision. I'm interested in how they're going to be portrayed as well.
But that's a terrible name. Can we just talk about WandaVision?
Yes, it's a terrible
WandaVision is like smell-o-vision, and that's exactly what that show is going to do, is smell.
Yes. I mean, that's a really big thing in the mythos of both those characters, is that relationship. Mm-hmm. So I'm very interested in how they do. You could teach a robot to love.
I'm not sure you can. I've seen Terminator.
On the DC side, I mean, I'm interested in what a lot of these other characters are going to do, and what's the new big book, and Doomsday Clock wrapped up. That, in theory, bringing the Watchmen characters into the normal MCU, which is always a very questionable move, and Alan Moore is obviously, spinning his head around because of it. But you also gave an answer of what happened with the New 52 and why was it a thing. Mm-hmm. And it made sense. You bridged the gap between a story that was all the way over here, and you can't see it if you're listening to this, all the way in this dark corner. Mm-hmm. That was still part of the huge world of DC and Vertigo and whatever. That now you've kind of had a small little road connecting everything. It was still separate, but it's still with everything.
Right.
I'm interested to see what DC will now be. What's their new point of view? I mean, Scott Snyder is on Justice League. I think he's still on Justice League, but he's wrapping up stuff like that. And I think he's teasing a new project. I don't know if it's creator-owned.
I think he's going back to Image.
He's going to go back to Image? Is he going to leave DC, or is he just going to do a bunch of comics for Image?
He's going to do some creator-owned stuff at Image.
I know he's doing a book with, I think, Charles Soule or somebody else, American Country, or American... Mm-hmm. Which is the idea of, like, America shut itself off from the rest of the world. And it was like a no-fly zone. Nobody went into America for, like, I think, a few decades. And now, all of a sudden, like... people are going back into America and see how it is. I'm interested to read that book. I need to catch up. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this year I'll actually start getting comics again, because I had to take a break due to adulting. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the Disney world and like a lot of these, how Disney Plus is going to affect not only Disney characters, Disney products, but Marvel and things like that. I'm interested on how more creator-owned stuff comes into the mainstream, whether that's just very popular books, whether it's television shows, whether it's whatever. Mm-hmm. And also how are comics going to reflect the current social issues, for lack of a better term, things that are going on in our world. Because, I joked about it many times. I'm like, I read comics to get away with the wackiness that the real world is, because that seems more real. The comics that I'm reading are more real than the ridiculousness that the real world is going on right now.
Yeah.
I can believe a guy can run faster than the speed of light, but I cannot believe that, certain people are in power right now. Things like that.
I mean, I think you're right in that this is there's a lot of stuff happening in comics right now. It's really up in the air.
Yeah.
I will be interested to see how how Marvel chooses to mine the next generation of creators. Because what you really saw was what Marvel was mining is that Steranko generation. The Stan Lee is editor-in-chief, but Jim Shooter's around, and some of these other guys are around. How do we mine the next generation? The early Joe Quesada generation.
Right.
I think that'll be interesting to see. As I eat some candy because my blood sugar's getting low.
Right.
But I think what'll be the other thing is, now that The Walking Dead is done, the book, not necessarily the show.
I don't know why the show's
still
going
Isn't the show
on.
over?
I think. I don't know. I was really into the idea of The Walking Dead and then after I watched the first season, I stopped watching.
Right.
Like I missed the episode of season 2, and then I missed another one, and then I just stopped caring.
Right.
Because everything had to be zombies now, and zombies jumped the shark.
I don't know. I think zombies can be done correctly. Still.
I agree. I
think
have no
Pestilence
interest.
is a good example.
What is?
Pestilence.
Oh, okay.
From Aftershock Comics.
Right.
But now that there's this big hole in the creator-owned world, and, you're finally going to get your Y the Last Man series.
Which I'm interested in how they're going to portray that in television.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited, though. Y the Last Man was a tremendous book.
Right. They're developing so much other stuff from that era of Image, the early 2000s. That'll be interesting to see what takes off and what flies.
Right.
I think from a business perspective, the best thing that can happen is that they keep trying. I think so often the comic industry sees something fail a little and stops trying that thing.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, they did the first season of American Gods.
Yes.
It didn't go as well as they had hoped. So by the second season, they had nerfed a bunch, and now they're firing a bunch of people going into the third season. And the comic industry tends to see something fail just a little bit and walk away.
Yeah.
Because, we've got to be profitable. We've got to make this money. That's fine. But give it some time to figure out what it is, and then figure out how to be profitable from there. It wasn't that The Walking Dead was this great once-in-a-generation TV show. It was that The Walking Dead was on AMC, who had nothing else.
Right.
At the time, so they just went with it, and they let it develop, and they let it find its audience.
I think comparing things to the Marvel... The Marvel way, I think a lot of critics and viewers need to stop comparing things to how Marvel did things with the MCU. I think that's the biggest thing I want to try to defend. Because, yes, I know, I'm a DC fan. Yes. Mm-hmm. But I still feel like I can appreciate Marvel, and I can appreciate a lot of things in Marvel, but I feel like Marvel's now starting to get too cookie cutter, that nothing seems interesting because I've seen it all before. Because it's part of the Disney machine and everything. I feel like you need to start looking at other comic-related licensing, movies, things like that, and stop trying to compare it to Marvel. Because it doesn't necessarily... not every character... DC also needs to look at that not every character needs to be brooding like Batman. You can have the ultimate Boy Scout of Superman in a movie or television show, and it can work. You cannot have them having a second guessing of why am I here, why do I have these powers and everything. You can't make everything, because Batman work, you can't make everything dark and brooding, because there's characters that are not dark and brooding. But you also cannot make everything the same that I feel like Marvel's starting to become. Give people personalities, give people conflicting ideas, give people something different. The Doom Patrol television show was tremendous. Well, I'm a big fan of Doom Patrol. I love Morrison's run, and I love Gerard Way's run and everything, and how they portrayed those characters was great.
Well,
and that was an off-the-wall show.
Last year we got The Boys.
Yeah.
We got, I'm going to blank on the other one. We had The Boys, Umbrella Academy.
Yeah. And people like those things.
We got the Doom Patrol TV show. Some stuff that's a little out there. I think in 2020 we need to watch for more of that.
Get weird with it.
Right. I also think that 2020 is the year of your friends.
Support your friends.
Well, and here's what I mean by that. Is that if you're a nerd, you have friends who are nerds. Hold on. I'm going to go to the Big Kyle.
Big Kyle. Here we go. Go to the Big Kyle.
The Big Kyle screen like this.
Point like this. Okay,
yes. Yeah. So 2020 is the year of your friends, right? If you're a nerd, you have friends who are nerds. This is the year where those friends are going to be coming to you and going, hey, man, I made my thing. Or, hey, man, I want to do this thing. It's like me going to Peapod going, hey, man, I want to do a podcast.
Yep.
Will you come on your Friday night and sit at the store for an hour and talk with me about nerd stuff?
Yep.
And Peapod's here. It's you've got friends who are making comics. You've got friends who are making art. You've got friends who are making whatever. My sister is a crochet artist.
Mm-hmm.
She can crochet you anything.
So can my wife, actually.
Like, she made me a porg.
Ha!
My sister. I want her to make me a baby Yoda.
Right.
But, you have your friends who are making their things, and they're the things that they're into. And this is the year of supporting that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if we all just took a year, 1 year of our lives, 366 days this year, and put our time into making sure that what our friends doing is supported, is healthy, and is successful enough that they can keep going, then next year we're going to look back and be like, well, why did we ever care that the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't look like the Marvel Comic Universe?
Right.
Why did we care that the way they animated Sonic the Hedgehog looked funny? Because we're going to be so focused on supporting our friends as their stuff gets turned into something bigger.
The inner punk kid in me is always down for, like, messing up the system, down with the man. Corporations can go burn, things like that. Right. And that's the inner punk kid in me. But also being a guy that works for a huge corporation. Mm-hmm. I can't really say that too much. But I can give my platform to other people that are on the rise, and I can toe that line of being, I'm this corporate guy, but I also understand how the independent work and how that struggle and work and everything, because I've done that, giving a stage, supporting your friends,
yes,
supporting local, regional, whatnot. Those things are more unique and more blood, sweat, tears, and money go into that than what you can gets pumped out, everything else.
Right.
Not saying that the things that get pumped out by the big corporations are not great. Amazon is great. Cool. Whatever. You can get you order something, you can literally get it in a day. Or 2 days. Whatever. But going to a local joint and seeing the pride of and labor of what this person did, you have to spend a couple more bucks, or you have to wait a couple more days extra. But it's more important, not only to them, but you will get personally a better product because of all of that work into it.
Right. I think, a prime example is, last year, or in season 1 of the Kypod show, we had Adam Ferris on.
Yes.
Who put out a book called The Good Fight.
Oh, yeah, I gotta read that.
Which is out now.
Yeah.
We have copies.
Good.
Shameless plug. But Adam was just a guy trying to do a thing, and we gave him a platform. And I know he sold some books because of it.
Yay!
And that's the point, is that now that platform is a little bit bigger, a little bit more sturdy, and he could go the next step to do the next thing. And so this year on the Kypod show, we're going to commit to bringing in people, whether they're here in store or we have to Skype them or call them or summon them via telekinesis, whatever we have to do. Well, we're bald, so it's our superpower. Right. So we're gonna vow to have those people on the show to support them and to build them up. But at the same time, if you see somebody out there doing it, you see somebody out there hustling, support them. Don't talk bad about them. Don't be like, oh well, it wasn't Spider-Man. Of course it wasn't Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody else gonna ever be Spider-Man than Spider-Man. But if your friend's doing something, shout them out, support them, build them up. And
I think this is the year that we need to build more things up. Period.
right,
More positivity.
right,
It's super easy to get in that that mindset of like hating all the things and being negative and everything. It's very easy to say no. It's super easy to say no. But to say yes and go and put yourself out there and to do a thing, even though when everything else is, everybody's looking at you weird. Hell, that's like literally my job now. Like I mention things and I talk about things and everybody just like looks at me and like they're weird. But like the people that I bring in or support or things like that, they're more grateful for that, and I'm proud that they're proud.
right.
Like, nothing against that. I'm sure they did that in their day, but they're on the way down and I'm on the way up. It's just that weird, cross section that we're halfway.
Hashtag throwing shade at some people.
We're halfway in the mountain. They're climbing down the mountain. I'm climbing up the mountain. So we're just at the middle part of the mountain. I'm getting excited for things that they've probably already been excited for. And that's fine. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think more positivity and a lot of more good can go a lot farther when we can.
Yep. So, speaking of building your friends up, guess what time it is?
Is it cheap plug time?
Cheap plug time.
Yay!
Peapod, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Okay, so if you are in the Toledo area, I do a morning show on a rock station called 100.7 The Zone. If you are not in the Toledo area, I also host a podcast called the On the Radar Podcast. It features musicians and rising artists coming to, through, and from the greater Midwestern areas. That is starting up later this month for our 4th year in. So we have a lot of excitement for that. You can follow that podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on the Radar PC.
Just call it Instagram.
Maybe.
Okay.
Instagram on the Radar PC. You can follow the radio station at ToledosZone.com. There's an S in there. ToledosZone.com. You can follow me personally on Instagram and Twitter, and also this.
Yes.
Yes.
That was a lot longer than it used to
I
be.
know. I do
You're
a lot
busier.
more. I'm
Yes.
busier now and more tired.
It's true.
It is.
I'm never more tired than I've ever been. All right. So then you can find us at The Nexus 419 on the socials. On YouTube, The Nexus 419. And Podbean. There's the news from the Nexus Pod, and then Kypod will be on Podbean as well. All that stuff is aggregated through thenexus419.com. We have Synergy now.
Yeah, you can't say F Synergy now.
Right, we can't say that anymore.
You need a new tagline. Well, we have our final
We'll come
tagline.
up with one.
We have our final tagline though.
So, anyhow, if there's something you want to see on the show, you want us to talk about on the show, if there's somebody we should have on the show, message us on Facebook, Twitter, or Insta. Get at me. Comment on the videos on YouTube and in the podcast links and all that kind of stuff. Let us know.
Yes.
I can't do something if I don't know that it exists.
We want to do things.
Right. And then because we will be live whenever we're doing the show, that schedule will be more readily available soon.
Yes.
But since we're live right now, I can do this.
Okay. Throw it up on the big screen.
Transition.
Hey.
Tomorrow here at the store is Odd Tales of the Comic Shop from 1 to 5 p.m. Tony Aiello and John Marroquin. Bill had to cancel last minute. We're sorry. But Tony Aiello and John Marroquin will be here from 1 to 5 promoting Odd Tales from the Curio Shop, which is an anthology book they put out. And then later on in the month...
Transition again to the big screen.
We have Dirk, the Haircut Manning, coming in to celebrate his birthday and the 10th anniversary of the print of Nightmare World Volume 1. That's Saturday, January 25th from 1 to 5. And then appearing with Dirk, but separately from Dirk, is local author and Rossford grad Isabella Christiana, who's here celebrating her first published work. She'll be here 1 to 5, January 25th.
Remember that thing we talked about of supporting people and supporting a thing? Support these things.
Yeah, come to the things,
Come
guys.
come do the things, guys and gals.
Yes.
And pets. I'm sure this place could be pet friendly, maybe.
I mean, I suppose.
Well, whatever.
As long as your dog doesn't pee on the comics, I don't really care.
There you go.
All right, we're going to get out of here. So thank you for tuning in to the Return of the Kypod Show.
And remember to buy comics.
Buy more comics. Bye, everybody.